Hey guys, welcome back to Midwest Myers. Today we're going to be kind of tackling a serious subject because today is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, and unfortunately our family was affected by human trafficking. So today we just want to share our story with you so you can hear our heart for this topic and why we're so passionate about it. Couple of disclaimers first before we get started though. Number one, before I tell the story, you need to know everything's okay. The first part of the story is going to sound scary, and it is. But everything is good. We found a lot of hope, a lot of healing. There's been a lot of work that's been done between the actual event and now that makes us feel okay and vulnerable with sharing. But with that being said, the other disclaimer that I will give is we're just going to leave out just a couple of details just for privacy's sake and just because this is still an ongoing investigation. So those two disclaimers up front, and then at the end, please stick around, especially if you're a parent, till the very end, because one of the questions that we get all the time from parents is, how can I keep my kids safe? How can I prevent this from happening? And I just want to share just a couple of things that we've learned throughout the years on how to keep your kids safe. And so with that, here's our story. So it was a day like any other day, February 15th, 2018. It was abnormally nice out that day for a winter day in Minnesota. The Super Bowl had just taken place a little bit before. It was the day after Valentine's Day and 15 days after my son had just been born. So our house was really busy. I was just going back to work after a 2-week kind of paternity leave, and Aisha was going to school, our daughter, and Chelsea was adjusting to being a mom. Just normal family stuff. And that day, Aisha, our daughter, wanted to go out and play in the yard. She really loved to do sidewalk chalk, and so there was this sidewalk that would lead from our front all the way to our backyard that she would go and color on, and I could see her from the kitchen window where I was cooking dinner. So as I was cooking dinner, I was doing laundry, doing all of these different things, and one of the times that I just briefly walked away, I noticed that I couldn't see her at all. And I kind of peeked around the corner, thought, oh, that was odd, but maybe she's just around the corner. Our backyard kind of went in a U shape, and didn't really think much of it until about 5 or 10 minutes later when I went outside to call her in for dinner. Said, Aisha, it's time to eat. And I didn't hear any response. Said, it's time to eat, come on, let's go. And at that age, her and I used to play this game where like she would purposely like hide from me, like kind of like spontaneous hide and go seek, you know. And so I was thinking it was that. But after about 5 minutes of that, it started to not get funny. I was frantically kind of like running around our yard, our garage, inside of our house. Maybe she came through another door. I'm like, come on, come out. This isn't funny anymore. Getting angry because like I don't know where she was. And so I'm looking in cabinets and boxes and all of these ridiculous places. And during that time, I just kind of felt like something's wrong. And I really can't explain it other than just this feeling of just complete terror. Like something was happening that was telling me that she wasn't just gonna pop out around a corner and say surprise or anything like that. So then at this point, I'm running around, I'm screaming her name, I'm just frantically running around the house, getting soaked in just what's left of the snow. And I start feeling like I should go out in the streets and look in the streets a little bit further into our neighborhood. And as I run out onto our street, I see way off in the distance this kind of pinkish purplish shirt, and I can kind of make out a little bit of a silhouette of a little girl running down the street, running fast. And I just remembered knowing, like, that's my daughter, what's going on? And at first, your mind goes between like the best and the worst, right? And my mind wasn't in that moment thinking the worst, it was thinking the best. Okay, maybe she just did something disobedient, did something that kids were not supposed to do and left the yard, was feeling guilty, and she was running home. But as she got closer, I realized that that wasn't the case, that this wasn't the best of things, but this was the worst. She fell into my arms, just bawling. And I said, "What happened? What happened?" And she said, she just kept saying, "They took me. They took me. They took me." And I said, "Who took you? What do you mean?" And so we went inside and found out that there was somebody that literally walked into our backyard, grabbed her by the arm, put her in a car, and drove her about a half to a quarter mile up the road. They stopped at a stoplight, a very busy stoplight, and my daughter, by the total grace and protection of God's love and her bravery, was just able to unlock the car and run. A couple of cars witnessed this, but before they could get any plates or any information or anything, that car had sped away and just let my daughter go. And so she had people that were offering to help her, but she just ran. She just kept running and came home. And I'm really thankful for that, because I know that that's not a lot of people's story. As I've read and seen things about sex trafficking over the years, everybody gets involved into it through different ways. So we went to an entire night's worth of investigation, questioning, and had found out through some of the conversation that took place in the car that it was human trafficking. Just right there in our own backyard, literally in our own backyard. And they never found the person. They still haven't. We ultimately were freaked, right? And so we had to move, get out of that neighborhood, because we were terrified to stay there. There was some trauma, some PTSD there, and it was really hard, because as a dad, you want to know that your family's safe and that they're protected, and when those things get violated, you kind of feel like you failed as a father. But thankfully, God can take stuff and use it for good. That's what Romans tells us, is that that God will make all things work together for the good of those who love Him. And so where I thank God for this story is, number one, she got away. Like, it could have ended a lot worse. And number two, we get to talk about this, because this is a subject that is a huge problem, but not many people are talking about. That slavery is very much still a thing that we're not talking about. And that there are great organizations out there that fight against these things that we're not supporting enough. So that's the whole reason why we're making this video. why we continue to talk about these things, done different things for different organizations, because we just feel really passionate about bringing awareness to this, that this is something that can happen in your own backyard to your own kids, because it happened to us. So with that, just a couple of things that have helped our family find hope and healing and safety again that we want to pass on to you. First of all, if you're not already a believer in God, I hope that this has kind of made you question that just a little bit, because there's no way to explain this other than God's safety and provision with protecting my daughter and bringing her home. We credit all of that to God, and we just acknowledge that and thank Him daily for that. Number two, therapy is an amazing thing. If you've suffered any kind of trafficking thing, any kind of sexual abuse, anything that brings these kind of traumatic events, please seek help. I am such a big advocate. We are such big advocates for therapy and making sure mental health is in order, so please get help. Now, more practically, safety-wise, here are just 3 things that we picked up. Number 1, know your neighbors, love your neighbors. We live in an amazing neighborhood now where we know all of our neighbors and their kids by name. We didn't really know our neighbors well where we were living previously, and we wish that we had, because maybe somebody would have saw something that we missed. Number 2, there are different kinds of watches and apps on phones and different kinds of things that can track your kids. I recommend to anybody and everybody who has kids that at a certain age, whenever they deem that necessary, that they would get something like this that can just let them know where their kids are and that their kids are safe. So make sure that you use technology to your advantage in any way that you can. And number 3, and probably the hardest one, is have a conversation about it. I never really bluntly talked with my daughter about this, but we had conversations about strangers and about dangerous situations and what we do in those dangerous situations. And some of that conversation did show itself in aiding her escape. And so don't be shy to talk to your kids about that. Your kids need that. They need to know that their safety is a priority and that you are considering it and that you want to help them. So that's it. I want to thank you for watching today. Just a couple of things. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. We love when you do that, and we're going to be telling more stories like this, so get ready for that this year. And number 2, please support organizations that are fighting against sex trafficking. We've linked some in the description below. If you have a favorite, please comment and let us know. We would love to know who's out there and who is fighting this battle. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.